Okay, let me just get my notes up. Okay, yeah, brilliant. Welcome to the first Sustainable Type Beat podcast. I'm joined by my friend Pedro here. So yeah, let's kick things straight off. Pedro, obviously, I don't want to kind of give you an introduction. I'd probably not do you enough justice, but yeah, if you want to kind of give me a rundown, I know you've been in the kind of sustainable fashion world since about 2021, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, if you just want to kind of give us brief rundown of everything you've done so far in it.
Yeah, sure. So, hello everybody. My name is Pedro. I'm 25 and I'm from Brazil. But right now I have been studying in Norway. I'm doing a master's in circular economy, and it has been such a great experience for me. And since 2021, I have been working specifically with sustainable fashion because, like growing up, I always saw fashion around. You know, my aunties, they are seamstresses, and as well, I grew up on a city that produced leather, and it's one of the biggest producer of leather in Brazil. So footwear was also something that was on my daily life, right? So then on 2021, I decided to join the slow fashion movement, and I have been working with them for more like 1 year and a half now. And
Brilliant.
yeah, and I'm actually working with fashion on my master thesis as well. So I do work with sustainability for footwear, specifically about leather and leather alternatives. So I investigate like the environmental footprint because we know that there's a lot of misconceptions and like misleading there. So I try to tackle those on my master thesis as well. Yeah.
Brilliant. Um, yeah, so obviously it sounds like you have the perfect background to kind of enter the circular economy, seamstresses. So is that kind of everything was made for you when you were a kid, or?
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
I grew up like thinking about working with fashion and being a tailor, but unfortunately in Brazil, that's really not a boy's job, right? So,
right.
uh, so of course there was a lot of prejudice back then, and I just gave up on this career that I could have followed, and I went to a totally different direction. So my bachelor's was in biotechnology, and I was like a
Mm,
scientist and a hardcore scientist, you know. And
mm.
right now I have been moving towards the sustainability and trying to make this industry a fairer and a better place for people working, but also for consumers, you know.
Brilliant. I think that kind of combination of the science side and the passion for fashion is perfect for sustainability, really, isn't it? In terms of you touched on it there, the consumer side of things. Obviously, I think when you approach people that have never really come to terms with sustainable fashion, sustainability can be quite a hard thing to kind of get your head around. Could you kind of just elaborate on the work you're doing with the kind of consumer education side of it? Because I feel like that's probably the most important part at the moment.
Yeah, sure. At Slow Fashion Movement, we do have uh, two major campaigns during the year, and we have been doing this since 2018. And those campaigns, one of them is like a more educational and really like hardcore educational. So they are
Mm,
called Know Your. So each year we tackle one different piece of our wardrobe. So in 2021 was know your jeans. So then we talked all about like the jeans manufacturing and all the problems throughout the supply chain. And last year we had know your t-shirt. So then we talked about as well the cotton conundrum and polyester problems. You know, and this year we are gonna do this campaign as well. I don't know if I can give some spoiler about the
of
theme
course,
yet,
yeah.
but it's gonna be amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we also have another campaign that is more like a pledge. So
Mm,
we try to engage people and to show them that like living a slow life cycle, specifically regarding fashion, it's not something out of this road. you can do it. And
Yeah.
and then like we try to make people pledge to not buy new clothes for a whole month. And
Mm.
turns out that a lot of people are willing to do that, and people are and this detox moment is like a moment to reflect on how consumerism is like really it has deep roots in our culture and our society in general. And so
Mm.
that's what we have been doing, but we also do have like some events that happen on our local groups. So far we have, if I'm not mistaken, 32 local groups, so in 32 different countries. Um,
Mm.
and then, but those events, they are more on like a short term, and meanwhile, the educational campaign is more a long term strategy to educate customers. And we know that education is the best way to change things, but it's a slow change. So
Mm.
sometimes we need something that is more ready, and at this time, at this moment in space. Yeah.
Mm. I had I think that's exactly right. I had a friend. I think it's still. I'm not sure about the differences between Europe and the UK, but I know the UK is kind of still in the mindset of recycling is king, whereas I think it's much more now based on the circular economy emerging, about recycling, reducing, reusing, repairing, all of these really key things for the circular economy. But I know consumer education still kind of stands here where, oh, it's recycled, it's made from recycled plastics, it's sustainable, I'm doing the right thing, where it's not really the consumer's fault because they feel like they're choosing to do a good thing, or at least they think they are. But in some cases, it might not actually be that way. But what you touched on there about kind of communities and challenges, do you think that's probably the best way to engage and really kickstart circular economy?
Yeah, sure. I think communities are like should be on the spotlight of circular economy.
Mm.
We see a great talk about governance on circular economy. So it's not about governments, but it's also about involving governments, communities, and the companies as well. So we see that
Mm.
there are some companies that are trying to move things forward with new business models. As you said, repairing and refurbishing and like remanufacturing. But some of them are still on the recycling part. I mean, recycling is also a strategy from the circular economy, but it's the least preferred one, because
Yeah.
you have to destroy all the material that you had already, and with that you have like energy loss, you have material loss, and with textiles specifically, it's quite difficult to do recycling because we are talking about textile blends, right? So we don't talk about. It's very difficult to find textiles that are 100% cotton or 100% polyester. We have like a blend between
Mm.
them, and this blend makes the final product be on a downer grade of purity and as well as quality in general. You know,
Mm.
so yeah, so I think like communities are the best to start putting this forward, especially as well like the consumer power. As we think that like
Yeah.
the demand for sustainable products is rising, and that's good because that show the companies and like the businesses that there are people that are interested in sustainable products, even though
Mm.
they are more expensive sometimes. There's a market for that.
Mm.
So yeah, so I think this is like a great way to put it. Mm.
Yeah, I think as well with kind of challenges, obviously they're fun, and it's kind of when you hear, oh, no, don't buy any clothes for a month. It's kind of, yeah, a fun idea, and it will get people engaged that way. But in terms of longevity, I think you think of something like 100 push-ups a day, or something like that. Just simple kind of lifestyle tweaks that you can notice day to day, like, yeah, don't buy clothes for a month, or only buy. I know one thing I do, or have done in the past for a month, is only buy on, do you know Vinted?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I would only buy on Vinted when I've made enough money to buy the item I want through selling my own stuff. So keeping it circular in that way. So yeah, it's just kind of finding new fun little initiatives to kind of engage yourself and kind of grow that community. I know, say if 100 people were to kind of post their results from this is my reaction to not buying clothes for a month, it would grow grow incredibly if more people kind of got into it that way.
And just to add,
I guess, yeah, no, sorry, carry on, Pedro.
Just to add
carry on.
That I think like it's important to highlight that there is no magical formula, so like what works for me not necessarily will work for you, For example,
exactly.
I do buy secondhand, but my approach with my wardrobe is a little bit different and more extreme that I think it would not work for other people. For example, I do have a very a limited amount of clothes in my wardrobe. So whenever I have to take something out of it and resell it or do something like that, And this keeps me on track of like buying things that are timeless, that can go with every outfit, or that fits on my aesthetic, And so I think this is the main objective of the slow fashion movement, is to make people think before they buy. And we know that like most part of people don't do it. They just go like irrationally adding things to the to the shopping cart, and then when they like they have a bunch of things that they will use once or twice and never touch it again, right? So I think the circular economy is there to make things be used to their maximum potential, and this of course includes clothes. We cannot leave clothes outside of the equation.
Of course, yeah. And something you touched on about kind of quality, that's something in a lot of my content that I try and drum down as much as I can on quality over quantity. I think that's probably, if someone were to ask me what does sustainable fashions mean for me, that would be the best way to summarize it as succinctly as possible. When we're out shopping, say in a charity shop or even a fast fashion shop, what are kind of, I know you have experience with denim and leather and a bit of cotton, you said. What are the things to look out for? I know the tags that give certification to organic cotton, but is that enough at the moment?
That's a very difficult question, because when you go for a vintage store or for a charity store, probably they would not have it, because like all of these certifications, they are something new. You can track them back from like 2007 or onward.
Yeah.
And so, but what I would look for, and what I always look for, is like timeless design, because this is something that you can use whenever. You don't have to care about it. Or for example, I do have like some key pieces, that are like staples for our wardrobe, and as well that works well with other outfits. But on the material level, I would go always for like the sturdy materials, like not really get like the really fraily and like something super fragile. I usually don't go for those, because I know that when I get something new, I will have to wear it for a long time, and I don't want to put this thing on the washing machine and then it be destroyed, right? So so that's what I always look for when I'm outside shopping. Of course, it would be great and amazing to have like you go secondhand for thrifting, and then you see like, oh yeah, this is a BCI cotton, or this is like cradle to cradle certified. It would be amazing to have that, but we don't, because those pieces, they are usually older and these certifications are new.
Yeah, I think that kind of is in some way, although it's a bit frustrating that we can't kind of have a scale just by looking at the garment. It kind of reinforces buying not older clothes, but clothes we kind of trust, like you said, timeless styles, and clothes that are secondhand, that have had a good life already, so we know they're kind of they're fit for that purpose to be used and be worn again and again and again, rather than just a £5-10 t-shirt from a fast fashion shop. Yeah, that's brilliant. I guess through your work with the sustainable and slow fashion movement at the moment, I'm not sure if it is something you've kind of looked into or not. What is the main reason? This is something I find in my own content a lot, in engaging men into sustainable fashion.
Yeah, that was a very great question, and I have been struggling to answer this question.
Yeah,
like for a long time.
I don't blame you.
Yeah. Because like there is this very interesting study from a Sweden institute that they say that like men pollute, or the carbon footprint of males is 16 times or 16% higher than the female footprint.
Right.
Which is really shocking, because
Yeah.
like we cannot talk about fashion problems and not talk about gender and gender identity. We are talking about a patriarchal society. We are talking about like this culture that we still have this. I think like here in Europe this is a little bit different, but we still have it on like the minor set. That like this function of healing and protecting is still very associated with the female figure. So then, in the sense of like using fashion and using like changing your habits, your behavior, your consumption behavior specifically, it's not it's not, it doesn't matter to you. You can do that to the girls, and then the girls will do it, and they will say that.
Yeah.
So this is what I like, the type of speech that I come across quite frequently, or even like on my sustainability bubble. When I talk to my male friends, it's always like they are more concerned about like changing like for electric vehicles or TV cells or something like that, but they don't think with of fashion as an instrument of change for climate mitigation. So then like it's really challenging to change this idea and this behavior and to engage more men.
Yeah.
And I think this has been changing recently, because I think people have been more interested in like a different ways of consumption. But from my experience, I think that we still have like a long pathway, to make male people more engaged on this fight for a better supply chain in the fashion industry, or for even like to use fashion as a way of changing our carbon footprint.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's not necessarily a problem in changing any kind of way men are. I wouldn't say. It's kind of just finding out how we can engage them, because obviously there should be something to appeal to everyone in the circular economy. That's kind of the purpose of it, right? So yeah, from the take that I got from it when I first got into it, I know I kind of picked up sustainable fashion, one, because I thought it was better for my style, and two, because it was better for my pocket. So I think if we can kind of make that as clear to men as possible, that those two things that I think most people, not only men, women as well, hold in high regard, in saving money and looking better in your clothes and feeling better in your clothes, then I think the world's your oyster for the circular economy. Would you say the problem that men have in kind of getting engaged in it is just a gender one, or is it kind of a marketing issue, or what?
I think so. I think marketing, of course, because like from my friends that I know that they don't consume they don't consume secondhand. What they usually tell me is that they don't enjoy the experience. You know, so they don't
Mm.
enjoy going to a secondhand shop and going through
Right.
many clothes and So I think what we should think about is like how to make this experience enjoyable, and how to make it because I mean personally I'm crazy about when I have to. It's like a treasure hunt, like when
Yeah.
you find that piece that you're like, oh my god, this is an amazing piece. For me it's amazing, but like I know that some people they don't like the experience and they also don't like the perception of like, oh yeah, this piece was worn before and like someone else was using it and
Mm.
they feel like kind of disgusted somehow, and this is
Mm.
what we call in the literature, in the scientific literature, as contamination, the sense of contamination. So people see traces of previous use, and this will hinder them of using it because they don't want to wear something that looks old, or they want to wear something that is that belongs to someone else, right? And
Mm.
I think marketing could play a key aspect on there, specifically showing that like the positive side of contamination, because contamination is actually a great phenomenon to explain how human perception of things work. Because for some people, if you have like a I don't know, a T-shirt that was worn by Elvis Presley, like this is a positive
Yeah.
contamination. You want to have that T-shirt. You want to wear it.
Yeah.
You want, So then, how can we turn this sense and this psychological sense and engage more male and female as well? I think like this goes for both gender, for all the genders, and yeah. But I agree with you. I
Mm.
think marketing is a big problem, and we still miss. We have a big gap, on the marketing area for secondhand specifically. But we could talk
Mm.
as well for renting. Like renting clothes is the same. We don't see like we see some niche uh, businesses doing this, but like when you go for a scaled up, you cannot see any business doing this because once again you have the sense of contamination. People don't enjoy the experience, or the marketing is not there yet. You know.
Yeah, I think there's a brand that's just becoming fairly popular and getting a bit of notoriety in Britain. Started by a gentleman called Ben. I think it's Lux Creative or Lux Collective. And again, I'm pretty sure people in the comments would correct me if I'm wrong later on. That he's kind of had to put a stop to it at women. I know that again, the men side of things or the male side of the business kind of is non-existent almost, and he's just hammering down on the women still because it is something that appeals to them. They see the value in renting a piece for say the summer or a wedding or an event or a party. It's much more easier, and they're much more reasonable to justify that price. For men, I know it's interesting. You said the case study of an Elvis Presley T-shirt. Someone that loves Elvis Presley would obviously want that, and not necessarily because it's secondhand, because it's something they care about and has an attachment to it, right? And that instantly made me think about in the UK we have a big culture on classic football shirts and even classic band T-shirts. So I guess now the issue for the circular world and the sustainable world is how can we grow that same affection for classic football shirts or classic band T-shirts or anything to do with culture, to make that into passion for an old jumper or an old T-shirt or an old pair of jeans that don't have the Elvis Presley or don't have the football club attached to them.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Yeah. I think we are doing some progress. I honestly think we are. So we see like every year there are plenty of new business models coming up, and they are all like working towards the circular economy principles. Yeah. So then I think like these are getting more and more common, and I think like exposure is also another thing, like when people get exposed to like secondhand or to renting, and then they see, okay, so this is not that bad or not as bad as I thought. So then they can realize that, well, maybe this suits my lifestyle,
Mm. Yeah, and I think again, yeah, like we're saying, it all goes in with marketing and how you show people a product. I think again, a lot of people still think of secondhand clothing as dirty and stuff like that, and it's just kind of overcoming that. And thankfully, more and more people, like you said, these businesses are coming up every year. And with the government, is that actually, that's something I wanted to ask you, with the kind of the government stipulations on things. Is that a reason you're seeing more brands come up with more sustainable solutions?
Not really. I don't think so.
No.
Of course,
Right.
like the government moving things forward is super nice and creates like
Yeah.
the context for it, but I think it's all about the demand. They are seeing that the demand is increasing, and like of course they will like make profits if they do something related to sustainable fashion. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think like we are
Right.
getting more conscious, about the patterns and like the consumer behavior that we have. I think this is like a, a to a great extent this comes from access to education, but as well like access to quick education. Like so we see like that TikTok and Instagram has helped a lot with that. To improve this spread of knowledge. And make people think about like, well, so maybe I don't deserve to buy new. I don't need to buy new. I can get something that can serve the same purpose as I wanted. And yeah. So the question is
Brilliant.
important.
Yeah. Do you kind of see the issue? I guess with being from Brazil but now living in Europe, do you kind of see the issue that people say sustainability is only kind of for the Western world or super rich countries where you can afford to have that wealth of choice?
Yeah, sure. I completely see that. I think like the way that people perceive fast fashion is very country related and as well as income related.
Right.
So I see like from my own experience that if someone can buy something new, they will prefer to buy something new, even though it's like really bad quality, than to buy a secondhand product that is like good quality, but it's secondhand. And this
Yeah.
is actually like a discussion that I have been having with some peers that like about the price of secondhand. That we are reaching to a level that sometimes secondhand is even more expensive than a first-hand product, but like a fast fashion product. So then, if people from lower income families, they would always prefer for the new one because this also plays a lot on the sense of status and like I can buy something new. Why would I buy something secondhand? You know. And the other things that we have, like for example, sustainable brands or brands that are like working, for example, with organic cotton and regenerative agriculture and stuff like this, they usually price their products on a level that those from lower income families cannot afford. And of course, if they cannot afford, they will go for secondhand or
Yeah.
for fast fashion.
Yeah.
And this is something that like makes me see that like the fast fashion discussion is a very difficult one. I'm not defending fast fashion. I know that fast fashion is horrible and like we could spend like the whole day here talking about like all the problems, the social problems, environmental problems, and stuff like this. I'm saying that like it's really difficult to point the finger at someone and say you should not buy fast fashion if that's the only thing the person has access to. And so what we have to discuss is like how we can use secondhand, and also like this customer education to slow down, to slow down consumerism. Because in the end of the day, if you can be a consumerist in secondhand as well. You can like buy tons and tons of clothes even though it's secondhand. That doesn't change
Yeah.
your consumption behavior. So we have been trying to slow down and say like to make people think about like what they really need and what they should get.
Mm, definitely. I think that's something I'm always wary about whenever talking about sustainable or slow fashion is you always think of the parent that maybe has to dress 5 children
Yeah.
on a low income budget. They're obviously going to more often than not shop fast fashion, and you can't really blame them in many ways.
Yeah.
I know over in here a very popular TV show, Love Island. They were sponsored by eBay for the season, so all the contestants were wearing sustainable fashion, which was a massive thing. And I think it just shows, kind of touching on what you said there, that perhaps the way to engage people the best way, traditionally, as always, as most brands have done, is go right to the top and go for celebrities, key people of interest, because the amount of brand deals these people do with fast fashion brands, if they were to be paid enough money to support sustainable fashion, I'm more than sure that they would. So yeah, perhaps that is as a solution, is to go for the top and go down from there, because at the end of the day, it is the people with more money that have more options, especially with something luxury and not a complete necessity like fashion. So it's just about going there. Maybe it's a trickle down effect, hopefully, because they would want to replicate the more wealthy people and how they dress.
Yeah, sure. And to add to that, like I think like from countries like Brazil, like from my experience, I see that like sharing it's something so well founded already. Like
Mm,
I grew up sharing clothes with my brother. Like sometimes if you like when I was a baby, I got all the clothes from my cousin. So then like this is something that is already in our culture. Like I don't
yeah.
have to buy everything new. I can have someone giving it to me. And I grew up in a low income family, and I can tell this from my experience that this is something that people do on their daily basis. And
Mm,
we just don't we just don't do that because it's sustainable. We do that because we need to do that.
yeah.
So, so yeah.
Brilliant. Yeah. I think the best things, as anything, it's like great inventions. They always come from necessity.
Yeah.
So when you think about it, sustainable fashion is kind of just a necessity. And with the impact it's having on a climate, that's going to become even more of a necessity. But yeah, Pedro, coming to a close now. Thanks for everything. I guess I got a few last questions. I maybe a bit out there, but what is your best sustainable tip for style for men?
Wow. I don't know. I don't consider myself as a very stylish person, but I would say that something that I always do is like keep to the basics, and
Yeah.
when you can do something like over the top, do it because it's super fun as well. But be
Yeah.
conscious that like everything that you put in your wardrobe, you have to wear it, and
Mm.
it's not something that you're gonna just buy and get it there and and leave it there forever. This is my personal motto, and there are some apps actually that could help you with that, like that you have like an inventory on your wardrobe, and you can make outfits with it and see what are the pieces that you are like this anymore, so you can
Mm.
swap or
Wearing.
yeah,
Yeah.
so, yeah.
Yeah. It's wearing, is it called?
No. I'm using one that is called Save Your Wardrobe. Save your
Oh, okay. I have one that's called wearing, but I think they might do a similar thing. Yeah, brilliant.
yeah.
Does it show you the amount of worth in money that your clothes are giving you?
No, not really. No, this one doesn't.
Oh, okay.
But the good thing about this one is that they have like a kind of like how would you say, like a blog built in, so then you can like read about sustainable fashion, and they also have like um, a service platform that you can look for repairing around you, which is super nice as well because sometimes you cannot, how do you say, you don't know where to find a seamstress or a tailor to help you out with
Yeah.
that clothes that are not fitting anymore or that are torn and stuff like this. And something that I have been
Mm.
doing these days, and I'm really passionate about, is to build my own clothes. I am start to sewing, and I think this when you do your own clothes as well, you create a whole different experience, because
Right.
it's like it's such a big attachment you have to those pieces, and then like it's something special to you, and yeah, and I think this could be another thing that I would give as an advice.
Brilliant. So is that your goal for 2023 in terms of your fashion?
I think my sewing skills are very limited yet, but yeah, for sure. Like my mind, I would say that like my all my clothes were made by myself, but not for 2023. I think it's too soon for
Mm.
that. Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay, maybe in 2025 you'll have your own brand or something.
Oh,
Who
who
knows?
knows? Who knows? Yeah. And I'll come back
Brilliant.
next year to
Yeah.
advertise it.
When you're famous, yeah. I guess lastly, Pedro, if there's anything you want to end on in terms of what you're doing in 2023 with the slow fashion movement, by any means, let us know now, and then we'll close it off.
Yeah, perfect. So we are gonna have like one of our educational campaigns happening in April, which is like the Know Your. I could give you a little pick on what we are talking. So this year we are gonna talk about leather, and so it's gonna be Know Your Leather, and we are gonna uh, tackle it from the footwear perspective and from like the accessory perspective, as well as the pieces like jacket leather and stuff like this. So stay tuned on our Instagram channel. We are also on LinkedIn. We have a newsletter. We have a blog where we talk about like how we as consumers should be empowered to do better decisions, to take better decisions.
Mm.
And yeah, so I think that's the main thing for now. Yeah.
Brilliant. Yeah, it's great to hear that, because the main thing I think most consumers, or when you're shopping for clothes, is to know you have the power in your pocket. With the money you're spending, the power is yours. That's what everyone's after. So yeah, if you think sustainable, think circular, then you'll be set. But yeah, thanks for your time anyway, Pedro. Great having you on.
Thank you for having me. Yeah.
Cheers. Okay.